You find yourself walking in the quiet corridors of memory tonight. The hallways are dimly lit, lined with mirrors that reflect not just your face, but fragments of stories that have traveled through time. Each reflection whispers of legends that have drifted from one generation to the next, carrying with them the weight of countless retellings. Tonight, you are drawn to one mirror in particular. It sits at the end of a long, carpeted hallway, framed in old wood that has darkened with age. The glass seems older than the others, its surface slightly rippled, as if it has witnessed more than its share of secrets. You approach slowly, your footsteps muffled by the thick carpet beneath your feet. This is where the story of Bloody Mary begins, and ends, and begins again. Not with screams or terror, but with the gentle persistence of a tale that refuses to fade. You settle into a comfortable chair that seems to have appeared just for you, positioned perfectly to observe this ancient mirror while remaining safely in the shadows. The legend you are about to explore has travelled through centuries, crossing oceans and continents, adapting to new cultures while maintaining its essential mystery. It has been whispered in bathrooms and bedrooms, shared at sleepovers and summer camps, passed down through generations of children who gathered in darkness to test their courage against something they could not quite name. But here, in this quiet space between waking and sleeping, we will trace its journey differently. We will follow the gentle arc of how a simple ritual became one of the most enduring urban legends in the modern world. We will walk through time as if it were a series of connected rooms, each one revealing another layer of the story. You close your eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of the day begin to lift from your shoulders. When you open them again, the mirror before you seems to shimmer slightly, as if responding to your attention. The reflection shows not your face but something else entirely. A bathroom, dimly lit by a single candle. The year is 1978, and a group of 11-year-old girls have gathered for what will become a defining moment in the legend's modern evolution. The bathroom is small, crowded with 4 friends who have been planning this moment for weeks. They have heard the story from older siblings, from cousins, from friends of friends. The rules are simple, they believe. Stand in front of a mirror in a darkened bathroom. Light a single candle. Say blood story. They are features. The legend of Bloody Mary has survived and thrived precisely because it adapts, because it changes, because each telling adds something new while preserving the essential core. Like water finding its way through different landscapes, the story flows around obstacles and fills whatever container it finds. You shift in your chair, feeling more relaxed as you watch these children navigate their uncertainty. Their nervousness is palpable, but it is the good kind of fear, the kind that comes with anticipation rather than dread. They are not truly afraid of what might happen. They are excited by the possibility that something might happen. There is a difference, and it is crucial to understanding why this legend has endured. The girls finally settle on a compromise version of the ritual. They dim the lights but leave one small bulb burning in the hallway outside, creating just enough illumination to see their own reflections. They decide on 3 repetitions, spoken clearly but not loudly. No spinning, no special gestures, just the simple act of calling a name into the darkness of a mirror. The first girl steps forward. She is the brave one in the group, the one who volunteered to go first, not because she is unafraid, but because she understands that someone must lead the way into mystery. Her reflection wavers slightly in the old mirror above the sink, distorted by the uneven surface of the glass. "Bloody Mary," she says, her voice steady but quiet. Nothing happens, of course. The mirror remains just a mirror. Her reflection looks back at her with the same mixture of anticipation and uncertainty that lives in her actual face. She takes a breath and continues. "Bloody Mary." Still nothing. But now the other girls lean forward, their own faces crowding into the reflection. The mirror shows all 4 of them now, their features overlapping and blending in the dim light. They look like a single entity with multiple sets of eyes, all focused on the same point in the glass. Bloody Mary. The 3rd repetition hangs in the air for a moment, and then one of the girls gasps. Not because she has seen anything supernatural, but because she has suddenly become aware of how strange they all look in the mirror, how their faces seem different in the candlelight, how the familiar bathroom has been transformed into something otherworldly by nothing more than expectation and shadow. This is the moment when the legend works its real magic. Not through the appearance of a vengeful the night, and some version of it will continue for the rest of their lives, They will tell their own children about this moment, and those children will create their own versions of the ritual. The mirror in front of you shimmers again, and the scene dissolves. Now you see a different bathroom, in a different year, in a different part of the world. The decade has shifted backward to 1965, and you are watching an earlier generation discover the same mystery. These children have heard a different version of the story. In their telling, the figure in the mirror is not called Bloody Mary, but simply Mary. She is not necessarily vengeful or frightening. She is mysterious, yes, but more like a guardian spirit than a threat. The ritual they perform is gentler, more like a summoning of wisdom than a test of courage. But the essential elements remain the same: the mirror, the darkness, the repetition of a name, the gathering of friends to witness whatever might occur. The story has adapted to fit the sensibilities of this particular time and place, but its core remains unchanged. You begin to see the pattern now, the way the legend flows through time like a river following the contours of the landscape it encounters. Sometimes it runs swift and dramatic, full of blood and terror. Sometimes it moves slowly and gently, carrying messages of mystery rather than fear. But it always keeps moving, always finds new channels, always discovers new ways to capture the imagination of those who encounter it. The mirror shifts again, taking you further back in time. Now you are watching a scene from the 1940s, in a small town where the story exists in a form you barely recognize. Here, the mirror ritual is connected to divination rather than summoning. Young women use it to try to see the faces of their future husbands. The darkness and the repetition are still present, but the purpose has changed entirely. The name they speak is not Bloody Mary, but simply Mary, 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 as if calling to the Virgin Mary for guidance in matters of love and marriage. The ritual takes place not in bathrooms but in bedrooms, not as a test of courage, but as a hopeful glimpse into the future. Yet even in this gentler form, the legend carries the same essential elements. The mirror as a threshold between worlds, the power of spoken words in darkness, the gathering of friends to witness and validate whatever might be revealed. The transformation speakeasies, daring each other to summon spirits between dances. The fear has been replaced by laughter, but the mystery remains. Even when treated as entertainment, the legend maintains its power to transform a moment, to create a space where anything might happen. Moving back to the 1890s, you watch as the story exists in a more formal context. Spiritualism is at its height, and the mirror ritual has been incorporated into actual seances. Medium gather clients around ornate mirrors, using the repetition of names and the manipulation of light to create atmospheric effects. The legend has been professionalized, but its amateur heart still beats beneath the commercial surface. The story grows hazier as you travel further back in time, but traces of it remain visible. In the 1860s, you glimpse references to mirror divination in folk magic practices. The specific name, Bloody Mary, has not yet attached itself to the ritual, but the basic structure is there. Mirrors in darkness, words spoken 3 times, the belief that repetition can open doors between the seen and unseen worlds. By the 1830s, the trail becomes more difficult to follow, but you can still make out the shape of the legend in various folk practices across different cultures. Scottish lasses using mirrors to scry for their true loves. German folk magic involving the calling of spirits through reflective surfaces. Irish traditions of using water and mirrors to communicate with the other side. The name changes, the specific rules evolve, but the core concept persists. There is something about mirrors and darkness and repetition that speaks to something deep in human nature, something that transcends cultural boundaries and historical periods. You realize that you have been walking backward through time, following the legend to its source. But perhaps that approach is backwards itself. Perhaps instead of looking for where the legend began, you should consider how it has grown and changed, and adapted to meet the needs of each generation that encountered it. The mirror before you shimmers once more, and now you are moving forward through time again, but more slowly, with greater attention to the details of how the story transforms as it travels. In colonial America, you see traces of the legend in the folk magic practices brought by immigrants from various European countries. The specific forms vary, but the underlying concept remains. Watch the legend begin to standardize around certain key elements. The name Bloody Mary starts to attach itself more consistently to the ritual. The bathroom mirror becomes the preferred location, perhaps because bathrooms offer privacy and contain the large mirrors necessary for the ritual to work effectively. The Victorian era adds layers of romantic tragedy to the story. Various origin myths begin to circulate, attempting to explain who Bloody Mary was in life and why she appears in mirrors when summoned. Some stories make her a witch burned at the stake. Others cast her as a woman who died tragically young, either from violence or heartbreak. Still others connect her to historical figures, lending the legend an air of authenticity. But you notice something interesting about these origin stories. They are all different, and they all contradict each other. This is not a weakness in the legend, it is one of its greatest strengths. By refusing to settle on a single, definitive backstory, the legend maintains its flexibility. Each community, each generation, each group of friends can adapt the story to match their own needs and sensibilities. The early 20th century brings new context for the legend, as indoor plumbing becomes more common and private bathrooms become standard features in middle-class homes. Suddenly, the ideal location for the ritual is readily available in most households. The legend spreads more easily because the infrastructure to support it has become ubiquitous. The 1920s and 1930s see the legend become more democratized. Where once mirror rituals might have been the province of folk magic practitioners or spiritualist mediums, now they become accessible to anyone with a bathroom and a desire for mystery. Children begin to discover and share the ritual independent of adult supervision or approval. This is when the legend begins to take on its modern form. The focus shifts from divination or communication with spirits to the simple act of summoning. The ritual becomes less about what Bloody Mary might tell you, and more about whether you are brave enough to call her name in the first place. The mirror before you shows scenes from summer camps in the 1940s and 1950s, where the legend becomes institutionalized as a rite of passage. Older children share the story with younger ones, creating a tradition of initiation that helps bind camp communities together. The fear is real but manageable, the perfect level of challenge for children testing their own courage. You watch as the legend forbidden without crossing major moral lines. It is transgressive, but not truly dangerous, mysterious, but not genuinely threatening. Television begins to influence the legend in the 1970s as horror movies and supernatural themes become more mainstream. The Bloody Mary story absorbs elements from popular culture, becoming more theatrical and dramatic, but it never loses its essential character as a participatory experience rather than a passive entertainment. The 1980s see the legend reach new heights of popularity. As slumber parties become cultural institutions, the Bloody Mary ritual becomes as much a part of the sleepover experience as pillow fights and truth or dare games. It provides a perfect way to create group bonding through shared excitement and mutual support. You notice how the legend has evolved to serve different social functions over time. Sometimes it is about individual courage, sometimes about group bonding. Sometimes it focuses on divination and wisdom, sometimes on the thrill of danger. But it always provides a way for people to come together and create a shared experience of mystery. The 1990s bring new variations as children begin to experiment with the basic formula. Some groups try different names, different numbers of repetitions, different locations. Urban legend researchers begin to document these variations, creating academic studies of how folklore spreads and changes. But the researchers miss something important, you realize. They focus on the variations as if they are corruptions of some original pure form of the legend. They fail to understand that the variations are the legend. The ability to adapt and change while maintaining its essential character is what has allowed the Bloody Mary story to survive and thrive for so long. The new millennium brings digital communication, and the legend finds new ways to spread. Internet forums and chat rooms become spaces where different versions of the ritual can be shared and compared. Children from different parts of the world discover that they all know essentially the same story, despite having learned it in complete isolation from each other. This global connectivity reveals something fascinating about the legend. Despite having no central authority or official version, the Bloody Mary story has maintained remarkable consistency across different cultures and contexts. The core elements, Mirror, darkness, repetition, summoning appear everywhere the legend is found. Social media accelerates the spread of variations. Now children can share videos of themselves attempting the ritual, creating new forms of documentation. Mary legend is like a river that has been flowing for centuries, sometimes wide and slow, sometimes narrow and fast, but always moving, always finding new channels. The mirror before you begins to show not just historical scenes, but the deeper patterns that underlie them. You see how the legend serves different needs at different times. During periods of social upheaval, it provides stability and continuity. During times of repression, it offers a safe way to explore the forbidden. During eras of prosperity, it creates manageable excitement for children who might otherwise live lives of comfortable predictability. The legend is not just a story, you realize, it is a social technology, a tool that communities use to accomplish certain tasks. It helps children learn to manage fear in a controlled environment. It provides a framework for peer bonding and group identity formation. It offers a way to explore questions about death, the supernatural, and the unknown, without venturing into truly dangerous territory. Most importantly, it creates a space where magic is possible. In a world increasingly dominated by rational, scientific thinking, the Bloody Mary legend preserves a small corner where mystery can flourish. It does not require anyone to actually believe in supernatural forces. It only asks that they be willing to suspend disbelief long enough to create a moment of possibility. You watch as the legend continues to evolve in the present day. New versions appear on social media platforms, adapted for the age of smartphones and viral videos, but the essential elements remain unchanged. There is still the mirror, still the darkness, still the repetition, still the gathering of friends to witness whatever might occur. Some modern versions add technological elements. Children use phone cameras to try to capture evidence of Bloody Mary's appearance. Others experiment with video calls, attempting to perform the ritual remotely with friends in different locations. But these innovations do not replace the traditional elements. They supplement them, creating hybrid forms that honor both the ancient pattern and contemporary possibilities. The legend has also begun to inspire more deliberate artistic interpretations. Horror movies, novels, and video games draw on the Bloody Mary story, creating commercial entertainments based on the ritual. But these professional adaptations never quite capture the power of the amateur version. There is something about performing the ritual yourself, in a real bathroom, with real friends, that cannot be replicated by passive entertainment. You begin to understand why the legend has such staying power. It is not just a story. Reflections it shows become less specific, more symbolic. Instead of individual scenes from different time periods, you begin to see archetypal patterns. The eternal image of friends gathered in darkness. The timeless appeal of mirrors as gateways between worlds. The universal human desire to peek behind the veil of ordinary reality. These patterns are not unique to the Bloody Mary legend, you realize. They appear in folklore and mythology from cultures around the world. The specific details change, but the underlying structures remain constant. Humans seem drawn to certain kinds of stories, certain kinds of rituals, certain kinds of experiences that connect them to something larger than their everyday lives. The Bloody Mary legend taps into these universal patterns while remaining remarkably specific and practical. It provides a way for ordinary people in ordinary places to access extraordinary experiences. No special training is required, no expensive equipment, no rare materials. Just a mirror, some darkness, and the willingness to speak a name 3 times. This accessibility is part of what makes the legend so democratic and inclusive. It belongs to no particular culture or class or age group. Anyone can participate, and everyone who does participate becomes a custodian of the tradition, responsible for passing it on to the next generation. You watch as the mirror shows you scenes of this transmission process. Older siblings teaching younger ones the proper way to perform the ritual. Camp counselors pretending not to know what the children are planning in the bathroom after lights out. Friends sharing their own experiences and variations, each adding to the collective knowledge of how the legend works. There is something beautiful about this informal education system, this grassroots preservation of cultural knowledge. No institution controls or regulates the Bloody Mary legend. No authority figure decides what version is correct or proper. The legend survives through the voluntary participation of individuals who find value in preserving and sharing it. This organic growth and transmission give the legend an authenticity that more formal cultural products often lack. It exists because people want it to exist, not because someone has decided it should exist. It spreads because individuals choose to share it, not because marketing campaigns promote it. It evolves because communities adapt it to meet their needs, not because focus groups suggest improvements. The mirror begins to show you the legend from the perspective of individual participants. You see through the eyes of a 7-year-old experiencing the ritual for the first time. Equal parts provides a way to test their courage in a controlled environment. The fear is real, but manageable, intense enough to be memorable, but not traumatic. They learn that they can face their fears and survive the experience. For teenagers, the ritual often serves as a form of social bonding. Sharing the experience creates intimacy and trust among friends. Those who participate together develop a special connection, a shared secret that reinforces group identity. The legend becomes part of their collective history, a reference point they can return to years later. For adults, the Bloody Mary story often functions as a gateway to nostalgia. Remembering their own participation in the ritual connects them to their childhood selves and to the friends who shared those moments. The legend becomes a bridge across time, linking past and present selves through a shared experience of mystery. But the mirror also shows you participants who have more complex relationships with the legend. Some children find the ritual genuinely frightening and prefer to watch rather than participate directly. Others become fascinated by the variations and spend time researching different versions of the story. Still others use the legend as inspiration for their own creative projects, writing stories or making movies based on the Bloody Mary theme. This diversity of responses illustrates another strength of the legend. It does not require everyone to participate in the same way or derive the same meaning from the experience. There is room for different levels of involvement, different interpretations, different applications. The legend is flexible enough to accommodate introverts and extroverts, skeptics and believers, those who seek thrills and those who prefer contemplation. It can be a group activity or a solitary experience, a test of courage or an exercise in creativity, a childhood game or an adult reflection on the nature of belief and reality. You feel yourself sinking deeper into the chair, your muscles relaxing as you contemplate these various dimensions of the legend. There is something deeply comforting about recognizing the complexity and nuance of what might initially appear to be a simple children's game. The Bloody Mary legend contains multitudes, serving different functions for different people at different times. The mirror before you begins to show more abstract patterns now, geometries of meaning that underlie the specific stories and rituals. You see how the legend functions as a kind of cultural DNA, carrying information about values, fears, and desires from one generation to the next. The emphasis on courage suggests deep-seated questions about identity and self-perception. The use of darkness acknowledges the power of the unseen and unknown. The requirement for repetition honors the magical properties of language and ritual. These deeper layers of meaning are rarely discussed explicitly by participants in the ritual. Most children who perform the Bloody Mary summoning are not thinking about cultural symbolism or psychological archetypes. They are simply trying to have an interesting experience with their friends. But the symbolic elements operate below the surface of conscious awareness, giving the legend resonance and staying power that purely superficial entertainment lacks. The mirror shows you how these symbolic elements connect the Bloody Mary legends to other traditions and practices. The use of mirrors in divination has ancient roots in multiple cultures. The power of naming appears in creation myths and magical traditions around the world. The gathering of witnesses for supernatural encounters is a common element in folklore and religious practice. By incorporating these archetypal elements, the Bloody Mary legend taps into deep currents of human experience and meaning. It feels significant even when its surface content is relatively simple. Participants may not be able to articulate why the ritual feels important, but they intuitively recognize its connection to larger patterns of meaning and significance. This connection to archetypal patterns helps explain why the legend has such broad appeal across different cultures and contexts. The specific details may vary from place to place, but the underlying structures resonate with universal human experiences and needs. The mirror begins to show you the legend as it exists in different parts of the world today. In Japan, you see variations that incorporate elements of traditional ghost stories and ancestral worship. In Mexico, the ritual blends with indigenous traditions about mirrors and spirits. In various African countries, the legend adapts to local beliefs about the relationships between the living and the dead. Each cultural context adds its own flavor to the basic pattern, but the core elements remain recognizable. The mirror, the darkness, the repetition, the summoning. These appear everywhere the legend takes root. They seem to represent something fundamental about human relationships with mystery and the supernatural. You watch as the mirror shows you contemporary variations that have emerged in response to modern concerns. Environmental versions that focus on summoning spirits of nature. Technological versions that have new ways to address contemporary needs and interests. The legend's flexibility and adaptability suggest that it will likely continue to evolve as culture changes around it. Future versions might incorporate virtual reality, artificial intelligence, or other technologies that have not yet been invented. But the essential pattern will probably remain recognizable. The gathering of friends, the creation of mystery, the exploration of possibilities that lie beyond the boundaries of ordinary experience. You shift in your chair once more, feeling profoundly relaxed as you consider the legend's journey through time. There is something deeply soothing about recognizing the continuity and persistence of human storytelling traditions. Despite all the changes in technology, politics, and social organization, people continue to gather together to share experiences that connect them to mystery and magic. The Bloody Mary legend represents one thread in the vast tapestry of human folklore, but it is a particularly strong and colorful thread. Its simplicity makes it accessible, its flexibility makes it adaptable, and its connection to archetypal patterns makes it meaningful across different contexts and cultures. The mirror before you begins to show the legend from yet another perspective, that of the researchers and scholars who have studied it. You see folklorists documenting variations, psychologists analyzing its appeal, anthropologists exploring its cultural functions. Their work has helped preserve many versions that might otherwise have been lost, and has revealed patterns that individual participants might not have noticed. But the academic study of the legend also reveals some of its limitations. Researchers tend to focus on the variations they can document and analyze, which are often the most dramatic or unusual versions. The quiet, everyday performances of the ritual, the majority of actual experiences, are harder to study and often go unrecorded. This creates a gap between the legend as it is lived and the legend as it is studied. Academic versions tend to emphasize the spectacular and frightening elements, while lived experience often involves more mundane encounters with uncertainty and possibility. The scholarly focus on origins and variations can miss the simple fact that most people who participate in the ritual are not particularly concerned with its historical development or cultural significance. They are just trying to have an interesting time with their friends. The mirror shows you this tension. Versions they collected from oral tradition. Modern researchers recording video interviews with participants. Social media users sharing their own experiences and variations online. Each form of documentation changes the legend slightly, translating the experiential reality into a different medium. Written accounts can preserve the basic facts, but struggle to capture the atmosphere and emotional impact. Video recordings show more of the context, but can make the experience seem less mysterious. Social media posts often emphasize the most dramatic elements while downplaying the quiet, contemplative aspects. But these documentation efforts also serve important functions. They create archives that future researchers can study. They help people discover variations they might not have encountered otherwise. They provide evidence of the legend's widespread distribution and cultural significance. Most importantly, they demonstrate the legend's remarkable persistence across different media and contexts. Whether transmitted orally, preserved in writing, captured on video, or shared through digital networks, the essential story remains recognizable and compelling. The mirror begins to show you the legend as it might exist in the future. You see variations adapted for new technologies and social contexts, virtual reality versions that create more immersive experiences, artificial intelligence systems that can simulate personalized supernatural encounters, global networks that allow participants from around the world to share the ritual in real time. But even these futuristic versions maintain the essential elements that have characterized the legend throughout its history. The importance of darkness, the power of repetition, the gathering of witnesses, the creation of possibility. These core features seem likely to persist, regardless of how the surface details change. You also see potential challenges the legend might face in the future. Increasing urbanization might reduce access to private bathrooms, where the ritual can be performed safely. Greater scientific literacy might make younger generations less willing to suspend disbelief. Digital entertainment might provide so many supernatural thrills that the quiet mystery of the Bloody Mary ritual seems insufficient by comparison. But the mirror also shows you reasons for optimism about the legend's future. The human need for shared experiences of mystery and magic seems unlikely to disappear. The appeal of participatory, rather than passive entertainment, continues to grow. The desire for authentic, grassroots cultural experiences may become more important as commercial culture becomes more dominant. The legends contemplate these future possibilities. The patterns the mirror has shown you are beginning to blend together, creating a dreamlike tapestry of images and ideas. The specific historical details fade into background, while the deeper themes come into sharper focus. The legend of Bloody Mary is ultimately about the human capacity to create magic through collective action and shared belief. It demonstrates that ordinary people in ordinary places can access extraordinary experiences simply by agreeing to suspend disbelief together. It shows that the boundary between reality and imagination is more permeable than we usually assume. But perhaps most importantly, the legend celebrates the power of friendship and community to transform mundane moments into memorable experiences. The ritual works not because it actually summons supernatural forces, but because it creates opportunities for people to support each other through moments of uncertainty and possibility. The friends who gather in darkness to call Bloody Mary's name are really calling to each other. They are saying, "I trust you enough to be vulnerable in your presence. I value our relationship enough to share this mystery with you. I believe our friendship is strong enough to withstand whatever we might discover together." This is the real magic of the Bloody Mary legend. Not the appearance of ghostly figures in mirrors, but the appearance of trust and intimacy between friends. Not the summoning of supernatural forces, but the summoning of courage and connection between human beings. The mirror before you seems to recognize this understanding, and its surface becomes calmer, more peaceful. The swirling images settle into gentle patterns that pulse in rhythm with your breathing. You feel completely relaxed now, ready to let the legend carry you into whatever dreams might come. The story of Bloody Mary will continue long after you fall asleep tonight. Children around the world will gather in bathrooms and call her name. Friends will share the experience and bond over their mutual courage or fear. The legend will adapt to new circumstances and contexts, while preserving its essential mystery and appeal. You are part of that continuing story now, having followed its journey through time and space. Whether you have ever participated in the ritual yourself, or simply contemplated its meaning, you have become connected to the vast network of people who have found value in this simple but persistent tale. The mirror's surface growth shaped the legend over centuries. They only need to be willing to step into darkness with their friends and call a name into the unknown. That willingness is enough. It has always been enough. It will continue to be enough for as long as humans gather together to share stories and create moments of magic in an otherwise rational world. The mirror fades to black and you close your eyes, carrying with you the gentle rhythm of a story that has been told and retold, performed and shared, adapted and preserved for generations. The legend of Bloody Mary sleeps now, but it sleeps lightly, ready to wake whenever friends gather in darkness and speak its name. Sleep well, night wanderer. Dream of mirrors and friendship, of courage and mystery, of all the stories that connect us across time and space. The legends are always there, waiting in the darkness, ready to remind us that magic is possible when we believe in it together. In your dreams tonight, you might find yourself in a bathroom with friends, standing before a mirror in gentle darkness. You might hear your own voice joining others in calling out a name, testing the boundaries between the possible and impossible. You might feel the thrill of shared adventure and the comfort of mutual support. Or you might dream of other mirrors, other legends, other stories that wait to be discovered and shared. The world is full of mysteries that become real when we choose to believe in them together. The legend of Bloody Mary is just one door into that larger realm of possibility. Rest now, knowing that the stories continue without you, that the legends live on in the hearts and minds of those who need them. Tomorrow there will be new tales to discover, new mysteries to explore, new friends to share them with. But tonight, let the gentle rhythm of this ancient story carry you safely into sleep. The mirror reflects only darkness now, but it is a peaceful darkness, full of dreams and possibilities. The legend sleeps, and you sleep with it, part of its continuing journey through the endless night of human storytelling. The ritual waits, patient and eternal, for the next brave souls to call its name and step together into the unknown. Sleep well, and dream of mirrors that reflect not just faces but the infinite possibilities that live in the space between what we know and what we imagine. The legend of Bloody Mary will be here when you wake, ready to continue its journey through time, carrying really about blood or terror or supernatural manifestations. It is about the courage to step into darkness with friends. It is about the willingness to believe in possibilities beyond the boundaries of ordinary experience. It is about the power of shared ritual to transform mundane moments into magical memories. Most of all, it is about the human need for stories that connect us to something larger than ourselves, to mystery, to tradition, to the vast network of souls who have gathered together throughout history to create moments of wonder in an often predictable world. The mirror shows your reflection one final time, but now you see not just your own face, but the faces of all those who have participated in this legend over the centuries, children and teenagers and adults, in bathrooms and bedrooms and basement rec rooms, all connected by their willingness to speak a name into the darkness and see what might answer. You are part of that community now, whether you realize it or not. By following the legend's journey through time, by understanding its appeal and significance, by recognizing its place in the larger tapestry of human storytelling, you have become one of its custodians. The legend of Bloody Mary lives on in your memory now, ready to be shared with others who might benefit from its gentle mystery. The story continues, as it always has, through the voluntary participation of individuals who find value in preserving and transmitting cultural wisdom through informal networks of friends and family. Perhaps someday you will find yourself sharing this legend with someone who has never heard it before. Perhaps you will adapt it to fit new circumstances or contexts. Perhaps you will simply remember it fondly as an example of humanity's enduring fascination with mystery and magic. Whatever role you play in its continuing story, you are now part of the legend's extended family. You understand its appeal and appreciate its significance. You recognize its connection to deeper patterns of meaning and tradition. You carry it with you as you return to the waking world, a gentle reminder that magic is always possible when we choose to believe in it together. The corridors of memory grow quiet now, ready to welcome new stories and legends as they arise. The mirror returns to its normal function, reflecting only what stands before it in the present moment. But the story you have experienced tonight continues to echo in the depths of consciousness, joining the vast collection of tales and traditions that shape human understanding of mystery, message of courage, connection, and the endless human capacity for creating magic from the raw materials of story, ritual, and shared belief. The legend sleeps, and you sleep with it, cradled in the gentle understanding that some stories are too powerful to die, too important to forget, too beautiful to let fade into obscurity. The mirror reflects peaceful darkness now, but within that darkness live all the possibilities that human imagination can conjure when it gathers with friendship to call mystery from the depths of an ordinary night. Rest well in the knowledge that the stories continue, that the legends endure, and that somewhere, even now, brave souls are discovering the magic that waits in mirrors and darkness, and the simple act of speaking a name together into the unknown. The ritual continues, the legend lives on, and the magic remains as real as it ever was for those who choose to believe in the power of shared mystery to transform ordinary moments into extraordinary memories. Sweet dreams, and may your rest be filled with gentle visions of all the stories yet to be told, all the legends yet to be born, and all the friendships yet to be forged in the sacred darkness where magic becomes real, through the simple act of believing in it together. But your journey through the legend of Bloody Mary is not yet complete, Night Wanderer. The mirror before you stirs once more, its surface rippling like water disturbed by a gentle breeze. There are deeper layers to explore, more subtle currents in the story that deserve your attention. The legend has many faces, many voices, many ways of touching the human heart. You settle more comfortably in your chair, feeling the soft fabric embrace you like a cocoon. The night is still young, and there are more stories within the story waiting to unfold. The mirror's surface clears, showing you scenes you have not yet witnessed, perspectives you have not yet considered. Now you see the legend from the viewpoint of parents, those who watch their children discover the ritual with a mixture of nostalgia and concern. A mother, in 1983, hears whispered conversations from behind her daughter's bedroom door, recognizing the telltale signs of sleepover planning. She remembers her own childhood experiments with mirror summoning, the delicious terror and shared excitement that came with testing the boundaries of the unknown. She does not intervene. Not yet. She understands intuitively that some experiences cannot be prevented, only guided. The Bloody Mary ritual properly, that there are no sharp corners where someone might get hurt in the darkness, that a responsible older child is part of the group. She prepares herself to be available if needed, while respecting her daughter's need for independence and adventure. This is the legend working at its most subtle level, you realize. Not just as a story children tell each other, but as a framework for negotiating the delicate relationship between safety and risk, protection and freedom, childhood and growing up. Parents who understand the legend's true function can use it as a tool for teaching important life lessons about courage, friendship, and the management of fear. The scene shifts to show you other parental responses to the legend. Some adults react with alarm, viewing any supernatural-themed activity as potentially dangerous or corrupting. They forbid their children from participating, often without understanding what they are trying to prevent. These prohibitions rarely work as intended. The legend's appeal only grows stronger when it becomes forbidden fruit. Children find ways to participate despite parental disapproval, often in less safe circumstances and with greater secrecy than would otherwise be necessary. The attempt to protect actually creates additional risks. But you also see parents who find creative ways to engage with the legend constructively. A father in 1991 uses his daughter's interest in Bloody Mary as an opportunity to discuss the difference between fear and danger, helping her understand that feeling scared does not necessarily mean being in actual peril. A mother in 2006 shares stories of her own childhood encounters with mirror legends, creating bonds of understanding and trust with her teenage son. These parents recognize that the legend serves important developmental functions that cannot be easily replaced by safer alternatives. They work with the story rather than against it, using it as a springboard for conversations about values, relationships, and the nature of belief itself. The mirror shows you scenes from summer camps, where the legend takes on institutional dimensions. Camp counselors, many of them barely out of childhood themselves, struggle with how to handle the inevitable attempts at Bloody Mary summoning that arise during overnight stays in rustic cabins. Some camps try to prevent the ritual entirely, creating rules and supervision strategies designed to eliminate opportunities for mirror summoning. But experienced counselors know that such prohibitions are both futile and counterproductive. With darkened bathrooms, they train staff to recognize the difference between harmless legend-telling and genuinely problematic behavior. The most skillful counselors find ways to use the legend as a tool for building cabin unity and teaching important lessons about peer pressure, individual choice, and mutual support. They help children understand that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite fear when action serves a worthwhile purpose. The mirror shifts to show you the legend in international contexts, revealing how it adapts to different cultural frameworks while maintaining its essential appeal. In England, you see variations that incorporate elements of Tudor history, with Bloody Mary sometimes identified with Queen Mary I and her persecution of Protestant reformers. The bathroom mirror ritual remains the same, but the backstory carries additional weight of historical tragedy and religious conflict. In Australia, The legend blends with Aboriginal Dreamtime concepts, creating versions where the mirror serves as a portal to ancestral wisdom rather than a gateway for vengeful spirits. Children perform the ritual not to summon danger, but to seek guidance and connection with traditional knowledge systems. You see Japanese variations that incorporate elements of Yurei folklore, creating versions of the legend that feel distinctly different from Western traditions while maintaining the core structure of mirror, darkness, and repetition. The specific cultural details change, but the fundamental appeal remains constant across different contexts. These international variations demonstrate something profound about human nature, you realize. The need for rituals that connect individuals to mystery and community appears to be universal, transcending boundaries of language, religion, and cultural tradition. The Bloody Mary legend succeeds globally not because it imposes a single interpretation on all participants, but because it provides a flexible framework that can accommodate different worldviews and value systems. The Mirror shows you academic conferences, where folklore scholars present papers on the legend's international distribution and cultural significance. You listen to debates about proper terminology, classification systems, and theoretical frameworks for understanding how legends spread and evolve in the modern world. But you notice something interesting about these academic discussions. For all their scholarly sophistication, they often miss the simple joy that drives the legend's actual transmission. Children do not share the Bloody Mary, how legends function in contemporary culture. It offers insights that can inform educational and therapeutic applications of folklore traditions. But the academic perspective can also impose artificial complexity on experiences that derive their power from simplicity and accessibility. The Bloody Mary legend works precisely because it does not require specialized knowledge or advanced preparation. Its appeal lies in its democratic availability to anyone with access to a mirror and the willingness to explore mystery with friends. The Mirror begins to show you therapeutic applications of the legend, contexts where mental health professionals have found ways to use the story constructively in their practice. You see a therapist in 1997 working with a group of children who have experienced trauma, using modified versions of the ritual to help them reclaim a sense of personal agency and control over their environment. The therapeutic version eliminates potentially frightening elements, while preserving the empowering aspects of the experience. Children learn that they can choose when and how to engage with uncertainty. They discover that fear can be manageable when approached with proper support and preparation. They experience the satisfaction of completing a challenging task in the company of trusted friends. Other therapeutic applications focus on the legend's social dimensions. Group therapy sessions for adolescents struggling with peer relationship issues sometimes incorporate discussions of the legend as a way of exploring themes of trust, courage, and mutual support. The ritual provides a concrete example of how friends can help each other navigate difficult experiences. You watch as these therapeutic adaptations demonstrate the legend's remarkable flexibility. The same story structure that creates entertainment for children at sleepovers can also provide healing frameworks for individuals working through psychological challenges. The core elements, darkness, repetition, witnessing, mutual support, prove relevant across a wide range of human experiences and needs. The Mirror shows you educational applications as well. Classrooms where teachers use the legend to illustrate principles of folklore transmission, cultural adaptation, and the relationship between oral and written traditions. Students analyze different versions of the story, tracking how details change as the legend moves from one context to another. These academic exercises serve multiple purposes. They help students develop critical thinking skills about sources, evidence, and cultural interpretation. They provide concrete examples of how dismiss the stories and traditions that actually shape people's lives, focusing instead on official cultural products that may have little relevance to lived experience. The Bloody Mary legend represents a different kind of cultural knowledge, one that emerges from grassroots participation rather than institutional authority. By studying it seriously, students learn to value the informal wisdom that communities create and preserve through their own voluntary efforts. The Mirror begins to show you artistic interpretations of the legend, creative works that draw inspiration from the basic story, while exploring its deeper themes and implications. You see paintings that capture the eerie beauty of faces reflected in darkened mirrors. You hear musical compositions that use repetition and echo effects to evoke the ritual's atmospheric qualities. Writers have created short stories, novels, and poems based on the legend, some staying close to the traditional structure, while others using it as a launching point for more complex explorations of identity, reality, and the nature of belief. Filmmakers have crafted everything from low-budget horror movies to sophisticated art films that treat the legend as a meditation on friendship, courage, and the human relationship with the unknown. These artistic adaptations serve important functions in the legend's overall ecology. They help preserve and disseminate the story to broader audiences. They explore meanings and implications that might not be immediately apparent to casual participants. They demonstrate the legend's relevance to adult concerns and sophisticated artistic expression. But you notice that the most successful artistic interpretations maintain connection to the legend's essential simplicity and accessibility. Works that become overly complex or intellectualized often fail to capture what makes the original story compelling. The most powerful adaptations honor both the legend's surface appeal and its deeper resonances, without sacrificing one for the other. The Mirror shows you digital age manifestations of the legend, ways that contemporary technology has created new possibilities for participating in and sharing the ritual. YouTube videos document attempts at summoning, though viewers often note that recorded versions lack the immediacy and personal investment that make live participation meaningful. Social media platforms host discussions about proper techniques, regional variations, and personal experiences with the ritual. These digital conversations create communities of interest that span geographic boundaries, allowing participants to connect with others who share their fascination with the legend. Video games have incorporated elements of the legend, creating interactive experiences that allow players to simulate the ritual in. Adaptations capture something of the original ritual's emphasis on choice, consequence, and mutual support. Virtual reality technology offers new possibilities for creating immersive versions of the experience. Participants can gather in simulated environments that recreate the atmospheric conditions necessary for effective mirror summoning, while eliminating physical risks associated with real-world performance of the ritual. But you notice something interesting about these technological adaptations. While they can enhance certain aspects of the experience, they often lose something essential in the translation. The legend's power seems to derive partly from its connection to physical reality, to actual mirrors and real darkness, and the genuine vulnerability that comes with putting yourself in unfamiliar situations with trusted friends. Digital simulations can provide entertainment and education, but they cannot fully replicate the transformative potential of the original ritual. There is something irreplaceable about the simple act of standing with friends in front of an actual mirror, speaking words aloud in actual darkness, and experiencing whatever actually happens as a result. The Mirror begins to show you the legend's relationship to broader themes in contemporary culture, ways that the Bloody Mary story connects to larger conversations about authenticity, community, and meaning in an increasingly digital world. As virtual experiences become more common and sophisticated, there may be growing appreciation for activities that require physical presence and genuine interpersonal connection. The legend offers something that purely digital experiences cannot provide: the knowledge that what happens is really happening, in real space and time, with real people who will remember and be affected by the shared experience. This authenticity may become more valuable as artificial simulations become more prevalent and convincing. You see how the legend also connects to contemporary concerns about children's development and well-being. In an era when young people spend increasing amounts of time in structured, supervised activities, the Bloody Mary ritual provides an opportunity for genuine, peer-led exploration and discovery. It allows children to test their own limits and make their own choices about how much risk they are willing to accept. This kind of self-directed challenge may be especially important for developing resilience and self-confidence. Children who learn to manage their fear in the context of the ritual may be better prepared to handle other uncertain or challenging situations they encounter in life. The Mirror shows you research enough to be safe, social enough to provide support and validation. You watch as the Mirror reveals the legend's connection to questions about the nature of belief and reality that have become increasingly relevant in an age of information overload. and competing truth claims. The ritual provides a concrete example of how belief can shape experience, how shared assumptions can create shared reality, how the boundaries between objective and subjective truth may be more permeable than commonly assumed. Participants in the legend often report genuine sensory experiences during the ritual, seeing faces in mirrors, hearing sounds, feeling presences that cannot be easily explained by conventional physics or psychology. These experiences may not represent encounters with supernatural entities, but they are nonetheless real experiences that have real effects on the people who have them. The legend thus provides a safe space for exploring questions about the relationship between mind and reality, between individual perception and shared truth, between scientific materialism and other ways of understanding the world. These are complex philosophical questions, but the ritual makes them accessible to children through direct, experiential learning. The mirror begins to show you the legend in times of social crisis and upheaval, periods when communities turn to familiar stories and rituals for comfort and continuity. During the uncertainty of the COVID-19 pandemic, you see children adapting the ritual for video calls, finding ways to maintain connection with friends despite physical separation. These pandemic adaptations reveal both the legend's resilience and its limitations. The basic structure proves flexible enough to accommodate technological mediation, but something essential is lost when participants cannot share physical space. The ritual's power seems to derive partly from the courage required to make yourself vulnerable in the actual presence of others. You see similar adaptations during other periods of social disruption, economic recessions, political upheavals, natural disasters. The legend provides a constant thread of continuity, a reminder that some human experiences transcend particular historical circumstances. Children separated by decades or continents can still recognize and connect through shared participation in this ancient pattern of mystery and friendship. The mirror shows you how the legend functions as a form of cultural memory, preserving and transmitting values and knowledge that might otherwise be lost. The emphasis on courage teaches children that bravery is possible and worthwhile. The required learn with their whole beings, not just their minds. The knowledge becomes part of their personal history, their sense of identity, their understanding of what it means to be human in relationship with others and with mystery. This kind of experiential learning may be especially important in an era when much education takes place through screens and virtual environments. The legend provides an opportunity for learning that engages all the senses, that requires physical courage and social cooperation, that creates lasting memories through direct participation rather than passive consumption. The mirror begins to show you variations of the legend that have emerged in response to contemporary social concerns. Environmental versions focus on summoning spirits of nature or connecting with the consciousness of the natural world. These adaptations reflect growing awareness of ecological crisis and desire for deeper connection with non-human life. Feminist variations reframe the figure of Bloody Mary as a powerful woman who was misunderstood or persecuted by patriarchal society. These versions emphasize empowerment and justice rather than fear and punishment. They provide opportunities for young women to connect with stories of female strength and resilience. Multicultural adaptations incorporate elements from various cultural traditions, creating hybrid versions that honor diversity while maintaining the legend's essential appeal. These variations help children from different backgrounds find ways to participate in shared cultural experiences while preserving connection to their own heritage. You watch as these contemporary adaptations demonstrate the legend's continued relevance and vitality. Rather than becoming obsolete as society changes, the story finds new ways to address emerging needs and concerns. Its flexibility allows it to serve as a vehicle for exploring whatever themes and values are most important to each generation of participants. The mirror shows you the legend's role in creating and maintaining social bonds beyond immediate friendship groups. You see how shared knowledge of the ritual creates connections between strangers who discover their common experience. Adults who participated in the legend as children often find instant rapport with others who share similar memories. This creates a kind of cultural kinship that transcends other forms of social division. People who might otherwise have little in common can connect through their shared participation in the legend's continuing story. The ritual becomes a form of cultural currency that facilitates social connection and understanding. You watch as the mirror reveals how this cultural that the legend serves functions beyond its immediate entertainment value. It creates invisible networks of shared experience that help hold communities together across lines of age, class, geography, and other potential divisions. The mirror begins to show you the legend's relationship to other forms of ritual and ceremony in contemporary culture. As traditional religious and cultural practices become less central to many people's lives, informal rituals like the Bloody Mary summoning may serve some of the same functions that formal ceremonies once provided. The legend offers opportunities for marking transitions, testing courage, creating shared meaning, and connecting with mystery in ways that feel authentic and personally relevant. It provides what anthropologists call liminal experiences, moments when normal rules are suspended and transformation becomes possible. These liminal qualities help explain why the legend often occurs during transitional periods in young people's lives. Sleepovers typically happen during late childhood and early adolescence, times when social relationships are shifting and personal identity is forming. The ritual provides a framework for navigating these transitions with the support of friends. You see how the legend creates temporary communities that exist only for the duration of the ritual, but have lasting effects on participants. The groups that form around mirror summoning often develop special bonds that persist long after the specific experience is over. The shared memory becomes part of their collective identity, a reference point they can return to years later. The mirror shows you these lasting effects in various forms. Friendship groups that maintain connection partly through their shared participation in the legend. Adults who continue to feel special affection for people who witnessed their childhood courage. Communities that preserve local variations of the story as part of their cultural heritage. You begin to understand that the legend functions as a kind of social technology, a tool that communities use to accomplish certain tasks without conscious planning or deliberate design. It helps children develop courage and resilience. It creates bonds between friends. It preserves cultural knowledge. It maintains space for mystery and possibility. All of these functions emerge from the voluntary participation of individuals who are primarily motivated by curiosity and desire for shared adventure. The legend accomplishes its social work. Business meeting in 2019 becomes more collaborative when participants realize they all grew up with versions of the same legend. A hospital staff dealing with stressful working conditions finds moments of levity and bonding through shared memories of childhood rituals. Teachers connecting with students through recognition of common cultural experiences. These professional applications suggest that the legend's effects extend far beyond childhood experiences. The social skills, emotional resilience, and cultural literacy developed through participation in the ritual continue to serve people throughout their lives. The shared cultural knowledge provides ongoing opportunities for connection and understanding. You see how the legend sometimes serves as a bridge between generations in workplace settings. Older employees sharing stories of their childhood experiences with younger colleagues who are just discovering the ritual. Mentoring relationships that develop partly through recognition of shared cultural experiences. The mirror shows you educational applications beyond formal classroom settings. Libraries hosting events that explore the legend's history and cultural significance. Museums creating exhibits that examine folklore transmission and community tradition. Community centres offering programs that help people connect with their own cultural heritage through shared storytelling experiences. These institutional applications demonstrate growing recognition of the legend's cultural value and educational potential. Rather than dismissing folklore as primitive or unscientific, these organisations treat it as a legitimate form of cultural knowledge worthy of preservation and study. But you notice that the most successful institutional programs maintain the legend's essential character as a participatory, peer-to-peer experience. Programs that become too formal or academic often lose the spontaneous quality that makes the original ritual compelling. The most effective approaches honor both the legend's grassroots nature and its potential for educational enrichment. The mirror begins to show you the legend's role in creative and artistic communities. You see writers, artists, musicians, and filmmakers who draw inspiration from their childhood experiences with the ritual. The legend provides not just subject matter for creative work, but also models for how to create experiences that engage audiences on multiple levels simultaneously. The ritual's combination of simplicity and depth, accessibility and mystery, individual courage and group support, offers lessons that creative professionals can apply to their own work. The most effective are performance pieces that explore themes of belief, reality, and social connection. Musical compositions that use repetition and echo effects to evoke the legend's hypnotic qualities. These artistic experiments reveal new dimensions of the legend's appeal and significance. They suggest that the story's power derives not just from its specific content, but from its structural qualities. The way it organizes experience, creates expectation, and guides participants through transformative encounters with uncertainty and possibility. The mirror shows you how these structural insights influence other forms of cultural production. Game designers incorporating elements of the legend's decision-making and consequence structure. Social media platforms experimenting with features that recreate some of the ritual's community-building effects. Event planners drawing inspiration from the legend's techniques for creating memorable shared experiences. You begin to see the legend not just as a story that people tell, but as a form of cultural technology that can be adapted for various purposes and contexts. Its basic principles, the power of darkness, the magic of repetition, the importance of witnesses, the transformative potential of shared risk-taking, prove relevant across a wide range of human activities and needs. The mirror begins to show you international exchanges and cultural diplomacy programs where the legend serves as a bridge between different societies and traditions. Children from different countries discovering that they share knowledge of similar mirror rituals, despite having no direct cultural contact. These discoveries create moments of recognition and connection that transcend national, linguistic, and religious boundaries. The legend provides evidence of fundamental human experiences that exist across different cultures, suggesting shared psychological and social needs that manifest in remarkably similar forms despite geographical separation. You watch as cultural exchange programs use the legend as a starting point for deeper conversations about folklore, tradition, and the ways that stories travel and adapt across different contexts. Children teaching each other their local variations, comparing rules and interpretations, discovering both similarities and differences in their cultural experiences. These exchanges often lead to broader discussions about cultural preservation, adaptation, and the balance between maintaining tradition and embracing change. The legend provides a concrete example of how cultures can maintain their essential character while adapting to new circumstances and influences. The mirror shows you academic conferences where researchers from different countries present social organization, but you notice that the most valuable insights often come not from formal academic presentations, but from informal conversations where researchers share their own personal experiences with the legend. These moments of vulnerability and authenticity provide deeper understanding than abstract theoretical analysis. The legend seems to work best when approached with a combination of intellectual curiosity and personal engagement, scholarly rigor, and experiential openness. The most effective researchers are those who can maintain both perspectives simultaneously, using their professional skills to illuminate experiences that have personal significance. The mirror begins to show you therapeutic communities where the legend is used as a tool for healing and recovery. Support groups for individuals dealing with anxiety disorders, using modified versions of the ritual to practice courage and develop coping strategies for managing fear. The therapeutic applications focus on the legend's capacity to provide controlled exposure to uncertainty and fear within a supportive social context. Participants learn that they can choose when and how to engage with challenging experiences. They discover that fear can be manageable when approached with proper preparation and support. You watch as these therapeutic programs adapt the ritual's structure while eliminating potentially harmful elements. The darkness becomes gentle dimming rather than complete blackness, The repetition becomes affirmation rather than summoning. The group support becomes explicit rather than implicit. These adaptations demonstrate the legend's underlying therapeutic potential while respecting the needs and limitations of vulnerable populations. The essential structure proves flexible enough to accommodate clinical requirements while maintaining its essential character as a transformative group experience. The mirror shows you residential treatment facilities where the legend serves as a tool for building trust and cohesion among residents who are working through various forms of trauma and addiction. The shared vulnerability of the ritual creates opportunities for authentic connection and mutual support. Staff members trained in therapeutic applications of folklore help residents explore the legend's themes of courage, friendship, and personal transformation. The ritual becomes a metaphor for recovery itself, the willingness to step into uncertainty with the support of trusted companions, to face fear in order to discover what lies beyond it. You see how these therapeutic applications preserve the legend's essential character while adapting it for specific healing purposes. The most successful affect perception, how social context influences individual experience, and how cultural practices shape psychological development. Psychologists investigate the ritual's effects on fear processing and emotional regulation. Anthropologists examine its role in cultural transmission and community formation. Neuroscientists explore how expectation and social context influence sensory perception during the ritual. These scientific investigations reveal fascinating insights about the relationship between mind and reality, individual psychology and social environment, cultural belief, and personal experience. The legend provides a natural laboratory for studying these complex interactions in real-world settings. But you notice that the most valuable research maintains respect for the legend's integrity as a lived cultural experience. Studies that treat participants simply as experimental subjects often miss the deeper meanings and functions that make the ritual significant to those who engage with it. The most effective research approaches the legend as both a scientific phenomenon and a cultural practice, recognizing that its meaning and power cannot be fully understood through objective analysis alone. The best insights come from combining careful empirical study with genuine appreciation for the ritual's cultural significance. The mirror shows you how this research is applied in educational and therapeutic settings. Teachers using insights from folklore studies to design more effective learning experiences. Therapists incorporating findings from cultural psychology to enhance their treatment approaches. Community organizers drawing on research about group dynamics to create more cohesive social programs. The legend thus serves not just as an object of study, but as a source of practical knowledge about human nature, social organization, and cultural development. Its informal wisdom proves relevant to formal professional practice across various fields and disciplines. You begin to understand that the legend occupies a unique position in contemporary culture, ancient enough to carry the weight of tradition, flexible enough to adapt to modern circumstances, simple enough to be accessible to anyone, complex enough to reward sophisticated analysis. This combination of qualities makes it valuable for multiple purposes and audiences simultaneously. Children can enjoy it as entertainment, while educators use it to teach important lessons. Adults can remember it with nostalgia, while researchers study it for scientific insights. Communities can preserve it as cultural heritage, while artists draw inspiration from it for contemporary creative work. The mirror begins to show you global networks of people who have been touched by the legend in informal connections and shared recognition, rather than formal organization. People discover common interests through chance encounters, shared experiences, professional contacts, and digital communications. The legend serves as a kind of cultural signal that helps like-minded individuals find each other. You watch as these informal networks facilitate various forms of cultural work: preservation of regional variations, documentation of historical changes, development of new applications, creation of artistic interpretations, and maintenance of communities that value folklore and tradition. The networks demonstrate how cultural knowledge can be preserved and transmitted without institutional control or commercial promotion. The legend survives because people value it enough to share it voluntarily, not because any authority requires or rewards its preservation. This organic quality gives the legend authenticity and resilience that more formal cultural products often lack. It exists because communities want it to exist. It spreads because individuals choose to share it. And it evolves because participants adapt it to meet their changing needs and circumstances. The mirror shows you how these networks connect across different levels of society, from children sharing the ritual at summer camps to scholars presenting research at international conferences. The legend creates bridges between academic and popular culture, between professional and amateur interest, between formal and informal education. These connections suggest that the legend serves functions beyond simple entertainment or cultural preservation. It helps maintain dialogue between different ways of knowing and different approaches to understanding human experience. It provides common ground for people who might otherwise have little basis for communication or collaboration. The mirror begins to show you future possibilities for the legend's development and application. New technologies that might enhance or transform the ritual experience. Emerging social needs that the legend might help address. Potential challenges that could threaten its continued transmission and evolution. Virtual and augmented reality technologies offer possibilities for creating more immersive versions of the ritual, while maintaining safety and accessibility. Artificial intelligence systems might be developed to provide personalized variations, adapted to individual psychological profiles and therapeutic needs. Global communication networks could facilitate real-time participation across geographical boundaries, allowing children from different continents to share the ritual experience simultaneously. Digital archiving systems might preserve supervision, and safety concerns might limit opportunities for unsupervised exploration. Cultural homogenization might eliminate the local variations that give the legend richness and authenticity. The legend's survival will likely depend on its continued ability to adapt to changing circumstances while maintaining its essential character. The challenge will be preserving what makes it valuable while allowing it to evolve in response to new needs and contexts. The mirror shows you advocates and activists working to preserve folklore traditions and promote their educational and therapeutic value. Museums developing programs that treat legends as serious cultural resources, educators arguing for the inclusion of folklore studies in academic curricula, therapists demonstrating the clinical applications of traditional cultural practices. These efforts suggest growing recognition of folklore's importance for individual development and community well-being. The legend represents one example of the informal cultural knowledge that communities create and preserve through their own voluntary efforts. But preservation efforts must balance respect for tradition with openness to innovation. The legend's power derives partly from its organic, grassroots character. Attempts to formalize or institutionalize it too completely might destroy the very qualities that make it valuable. The most effective preservation strategies probably involve supporting the conditions that allow the legend to flourish naturally, rather than trying to control its development directly. Creating opportunities for intergenerational contact, maintaining spaces for unsupervised peer interaction, encouraging respect for cultural diversity and local tradition. The mirror begins to show you the legend as part of larger conversations about cultural resilience, community well-being, and the preservation of human wisdom in an age of rapid technological and social change. Folklore traditions like the Bloody Mary legend represent forms of cultural knowledge that might otherwise be lost as societies become more urbanized, digitized, and globally connected. These traditions carry practical wisdom about human psychology, social organization, and community development that has been tested through generations of lived experience. They provide models for creating meaningful connections, managing difficult emotions, and building resilient communities. The loss of such traditions might leave societies poorer in ways that are difficult to measure or replace through formal institutions. The legend's continued vitality thus represents not just entertainment for children, but preservation of cultural resources that benefit entire communities. You watch as the mirror shows you each other, rather than competing for cultural space. The most resilient communities seem to be those that value both continuity and change, that preserve essential cultural functions while adapting their expression to new circumstances and opportunities. The legend provides a model for this kind of adaptive preservation. The mirror shows you how the legend might serve as inspiration for creating new forms of community ritual and cultural practice adapted to contemporary needs and circumstances. The basic principles, darkness, repetition, witnesses, shared risk-taking, could be applied to address various contemporary challenges. Support groups for people dealing with social isolation might develop rituals that create opportunities for authentic connection and mutual vulnerability. Educational programs might incorporate elements of the legend's experiential learning approach. Community organizations might use its techniques for creating memorable, shared experiences that build group identity and cohesion. These applications would represent not mere imitation of the legend, but creative adaptation of its underlying principles to new contexts and purposes. The legend's structural insights could inform various forms of social innovation and cultural development. You begin to see the legend as containing practical wisdom about human nature and social organization that extends far beyond its surface content. Its persistence and adaptability suggest that it addresses fundamental needs and provides effective solutions that remain relevant across different historical periods and cultural contexts. The mirror begins to show you the legend's role in personal development and individual growth, ways that participation in the ritual affects people's understanding of themselves and their capabilities. Children who successfully complete the summoning often report lasting increases in self-confidence and willingness to face other challenges. The ritual provides a safe context for discovering personal courage and resilience. Participants learn that they can manage fear, that they can make choices about how to respond to uncertainty, that they can act effectively, even when they do not fully understand what might happen as a result. These lessons prove valuable throughout life as individuals encounter new challenges and opportunities. The confidence developed through participation in the legend often generalizes to other situations requiring courage, decision-making, and tolerance for ambiguity. You watch as the mirror shows you adults reflecting on how their childhood experiences with the legend influence their challenging circumstances. The memory of successfully managing fear in the context of the ritual provides evidence that courage is possible and worthwhile. The legend thus serves not just as entertainment or cultural preservation, but as a tool for character development and personal growth. It helps individuals discover and develop capacities they might not otherwise know they possessed. The mirror shows you therapeutic applications that focus specifically on these personal development aspects of the legend. Confidence-building programs that use modified versions of the ritual to help individuals overcome anxiety and develop greater self-efficacy. Leadership training that incorporates the legend's lessons about courage, decision-making, and group dynamics. These applications demonstrate how the legend's informal wisdom can be adapted for formal, educational, and therapeutic purposes, while maintaining its essential character as a transformative personal experience. The mirror begins to show you the legend's relationship to questions of authenticity and meaning in contemporary life. As more human experiences become mediated through digital technology, there may be growing appreciation for activities that require physical presence, genuine risk, and authentic interpersonal connection. The legend offers something that virtual experiences cannot fully replicate: the knowledge that what happens is really happening, in real space and time, with real consequences for real relationships. This authenticity may become increasingly valuable as artificial alternatives become more sophisticated and prevalent. You see how the legend provides opportunities for genuine encounter with mystery and uncertainty in a world that often feels overly controlled, predictable, and rational. The ritual creates space for experiences that cannot be easily explained, categorized, or commercialized. This connection to mystery may be especially important for young people growing up in environments dominated by surveillance, measurement, and evaluation. The legend offers refuge from constant monitoring and assessment, space for experiences that belong entirely to the participants, without external validation or documentation. The mirror shows you how the legend's emphasis on peer relationships and mutual support provides alternatives to adult-controlled or commercially mediated forms of social interaction. Children who participate in the ritual learn to create their own meaningful experiences without relying on entertainment provided by others. This capacity for self-directed cultural creation may be crucial for developing independence, creativity, and resilience. The legend teaches that forms of cultural expression. Adult attempts to eliminate or control the ritual often reflect broader trends toward the disappearance of authentic childhood experiences. The legend represents children's capacity to create their own culture, to explore themes and questions that interest them, to develop their own approaches to managing fear, uncertainty, and social relationships. This cultural autonomy may be essential for healthy development and authentic identity formation. The Mirror begins to show you international research collaborations focused on documenting and analyzing the legend's global manifestations. Scholars from different countries working together to map the ritual's distribution, track its historical development, and understand its cultural functions across different societies. These collaborative efforts reveal the remarkable consistency of the legend's core elements, despite its geographical dispersion and cultural adaptation. The basic pattern appears independently in societies with no direct contact, suggesting that it addresses universal human needs and psychological processes. The research demonstrates how folklore can serve as a window into fundamental aspects of human nature that transcend particular cultural contexts. The legend provides evidence of shared psychological and social needs that manifest in similar forms across different societies. But the international research also reveals fascinating variations and innovations that reflect local cultural influences, environmental conditions, and historical experiences. The legend adapts to different contexts while maintaining its essential character, creating a rich tapestry of related but distinct traditions. You watch as researchers work to document these variations before they are lost due to cultural homogenization, urbanization, and the decline of traditional community structures. The preservation work represents efforts to maintain cultural diversity and local knowledge in an increasingly globalized world. The Mirror shows you how this research influences policy discussions about cultural preservation, education, and community development. Evidence of the legend's positive effects on child development and community cohesion supports arguments for protecting spaces and opportunities for traditional cultural practices. Educational policies that recognize folklore as legitimate cultural knowledge worthy of preservation and transmission. Community development programs that incorporate traditional cultural practices as resources for building social cohesion and resilience. Mental health initiatives that draw on cultural traditions as sources of therapeutic insight and technique. The legend thus serves not just as an object of academic study, but as evidence for the practical value of informal cultural knowledge and traditional ways of knowing. The Mirror begins to show you the legend's role in creating and maintaining cultural identity, particularly for communities that are geographically dispersed or culturally marginalized. Shared knowledge of the ritual creates bonds between people who might otherwise have little basis for connection or mutual recognition. Immigrant communities using variations of the legend to maintain cultural continuity while adapting to new social environments. Ethnic minorities preserving traditional elements within contemporary versions of the ritual. Diaspora populations connecting with their heritage through shared folklore experiences. These applications demonstrate how the legend serves functions beyond entertainment or personal development. It helps communities maintain coherence and identity across time and space, providing continuity between past and present, connection between separated populations. You watch as the Mirror shows you cultural festivals and heritage celebrations that incorporate the legend as part of larger efforts to preserve and transmit traditional knowledge. Community gatherings where different generations share their versions of the story, creating opportunities for intergenerational dialogue and cultural education. These formal presentations of the legend complement its informal transmission through peer networks and family traditions. They provide additional contexts for preservation and adaptation, while maintaining respect for the ritual's grassroots character. The Mirror shows you how these cultural celebrations often lead to renewed interest in the legend among community members who had forgotten or neglected their connection to traditional practices. The public recognition and validation provide motivation for individuals to engage more actively with their cultural heritage. But you notice that the most successful cultural presentations maintain the legend's essential character as a participatory experience rather than passive entertainment. Events that allow audience members to share their own versions and experiences prove more engaging and authentic than those that simply display the tradition as historical artifact. The legend works best when it remains alive and active, rather than preserved in static form. Its power derives from ongoing participation and adaptation, rather than museum-style preservation that treats it as belonging entirely to the past. The mirror begins to show you contemporary challenges facing the legend's continued transmission and evolution. Urbanization that reduces access to appropriate spaces for safe ritual performance. Digital entertainment that competes with traditional forms of peer interaction and cultural creation. Increased parental supervision that limits communities. These challenges require creative responses that honor the legend's essential character while adapting to contemporary realities. Solutions might involve creating new kinds of spaces and opportunities for traditional cultural practices, developing educational programs that support folklore transmission, or finding ways to integrate traditional and digital approaches to cultural engagement. You watch as the mirror shows you innovative responses to these challenges. Community centers creating special programs that provide safe spaces for folklore activities. Schools incorporating legend-based activities into their curricula as ways of teaching cultural literacy and social skills. Youth organizations using the legend as a framework for building confidence, leadership, and group cohesion. Summer camps adapting traditional activities to contemporary safety requirements while preserving their essential character and function. These adaptations suggest that the legend can survive and thrive in contemporary contexts if communities are willing to invest in creating appropriate conditions and opportunities. The key seems to be finding ways to maintain the ritual's essential qualities while adapting its expression to new circumstances. The mirror shows you how digital technology can sometimes support rather than replace traditional cultural practices. Online forums where people share variations and experiences. Digital archives that preserve regional versions for future research and education. Virtual reality applications that supplement rather than substitute for real-world participation. The most successful technological applications seem to be those that enhance traditional practices rather than replacing them entirely. Technology works best when it facilitates human connection and cultural transmission rather than creating isolated, individualized experiences. The mirror begins to show you the legend as it might exist 50 years from now, adapted to social and technological conditions that are difficult to predict, but likely to be significantly different from today's circumstances. The specific forms may change dramatically, but the underlying functions seem likely to persist. Future children will probably still need opportunities to test their courage in safe contexts, to bond with friends through shared challenges, to explore questions about reality and belief through experiential learning. The legend's essential appeal derives from fundamental human needs that seem unlikely to disappear, regardless of technological advancement. The challenge will be finding ways to preserve what makes the legend valuable, while allowing it to evolve in response to changing circumstances. This will probably require global networks that allow real-time sharing of variations and innovations, artificial intelligence systems that can generate personalized adaptations while maintaining connection to traditional patterns, virtual and augmented reality applications that create more immersive versions of the ritual while preserving its essential social character, therapeutic applications that use the legend's structure to address contemporary mental health challenges, educational programs that incorporate the legend's experiential learning techniques into formal curricula. These possibilities suggest that the legend's future may be brighter than some contemporary challenges might suggest. Its flexibility and adaptability have allowed it to survive major historical changes before. There is reason to believe it will continue to find new forms of expression that serve contemporary needs while honoring traditional wisdom. The mirror shows you communities working actively to ensure the legend's continued vitality. Parents who share their own childhood experiences while supporting their children's independent exploration. Educators who incorporate folklore into their teaching as legitimate cultural knowledge. Researchers who study traditional practices with respect and appreciation rather than condescension or dismissal. These efforts suggest growing recognition of the legend's cultural value and importance for individual and community well-being. The work of preservation and adaptation continues through the voluntary efforts of people who recognize that some forms of cultural knowledge are too valuable to be lost. As you watch these various streams of activity and possibility, you begin to feel the gentle fatigue that comes with deep contemplation and extensive mental travel. The mirror's surface grows softer, more peaceful, reflecting now not specific scenes, but gentle patterns of light and shadow that pulse in rhythm with your breathing. The legend of Bloody Mary rests quietly in your consciousness now, no longer demanding active attention, but settling into the deeper layers of memory, where stories live when they are fully integrated. You understand now that the legend is not simply a tale to be told, but a pattern to be lived, a framework for creating meaning and connection that remains available whenever communities choose to activate it. The story continues without you now, Night Wanderer, carried forward by countless participants who will discover its power for themselves. Children yet to be born will gather in darkness with their friends, speak ancient words into mirrors, and learn the timeless lessons of courage, friendship, and the possibilities that live sleep, knowing that it will continue its work in the world while you dream. The mirror reflects peaceful darkness now, but it is a darkness full of possibility rather than emptiness. Somewhere in that darkness, friends are gathering, courage is being tested, bonds are being formed, and the ancient dance between mystery and revelation continues its eternal rhythm. Sleep well, knowing that the stories never end, that the legends live on in every child who chooses courage over safety, friendship over isolation, wonder over cynicism. The ritual waits patiently for the next brave souls to speak its name and step together into the beautiful unknown that connects all human hearts across the vast expanse of time and space and story. Dream of mirrors that reflect not just faces but possibilities, not just what is, but what might be, when friends gather in sacred darkness and dare to call mystery by its name. The legend sleeps now, but lightly, ready to wake whenever it is needed, whenever someone remembers that magic is real for those who choose to believe in it together. Rest in the gentle understanding that you are now part of the legend's continuing story, a witness to its journey, a guardian of its wisdom, a bridge between its past and its future. The mirror holds your reflection now, among all the others who have looked into its depths and seen not just their own faces, but the faces of everyone who has ever gathered with friends to explore the mysteries that live between worlds, between heartbeats, between the moment when the name is spoken and the moment when its echo fades into silence. Sweet dreams, Night Wanderer, and may you carry forward the legend's gentle gifts of courage, friendship, and wonder into whatever adventures await you in the world of waking dreams and daylight mysteries that lies beyond the mirror's edge. But before you drift completely into the realm of sleep, the mirror stirs once more, offering you one final journey through the quieter, more intimate corners of the legend's vast domain. These are the personal stories, the individual moments when the ritual became something more than entertainment, when it touched lives in ways both subtle and profound. You settle deeper into your chair, feeling the soft embrace of approaching sleep, as the mirror shows you Sarah, age 9, in suburban Connecticut in 1984. Sarah has been invited to social failure. Then someone mentions Bloody Mary, and everything changes. The mention of the legend creates a different kind of energy in the room, one that equalizes all participants. Suddenly, the most confident girls are no more certain than Sarah about what to do or how to proceed. Everyone becomes a beginner. Everyone shares the same mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Sarah discovers that her natural caution, usually a social liability, becomes an asset in this context. Her careful attention to details that others overlook helps the group establish clear rules and safety protocols. Her tendency to think before acting proves valuable when making decisions about how to proceed with the ritual. When the time comes to choose who will go first, Sarah surprises everyone, including herself, by volunteering. The decision emerges not from bravado or peer pressure, but from a quiet recognition that this moment offers something she has been seeking without knowing it. An opportunity to discover her own courage in a context where courage is recognized and valued. You watch as Sarah stands before the mirror with her new friends surrounding her, speaking the ancient words with a voice that grows stronger with each repetition. She does not see any supernatural manifestations, but she experiences something equally transformative: the recognition that she can choose courage over comfort, action over hesitation, participation over isolation. The other girls witness her transformation with admiration and respect. The shy newcomer becomes, in that moment, the brave pioneer who led them all into mystery. This new identity stays with Sarah for the rest of the sleepover and, in subtle ways, for the rest of her life. Years later, when facing job interviews, difficult conversations, or other challenging situations, Sarah will remember this moment of chosen courage. The memory provides evidence that she can act despite fear, that she can find strength she did not know she possessed, that she can earn respect through authenticity rather than performance. The mirror shifts to show you Marcus, age 12, in inner-city Detroit in 1993. Marcus lives in a neighborhood where displays of fear are often interpreted as weakness, where vulnerability can invite predation, where the social pressures encourage a kind of defensive hardness that makes authentic relationships difficult to form and maintain. Marcus has learned to navigate these pressures by constructing a protective persona that emphasizes toughness and independence. He avoids activities or situations that might reveal uncertainty or need for support. This strategy serves him well in many contexts, but it also isolates. Support is expected rather than seen as weakness or dependence. Initially, Marcus resists participating in the ritual, viewing it as childish nonsense unworthy of his sophisticated urban sensibilities. But his cousin's gentle persistence and the genuine curiosity of other neighborhood children gradually overcome his resistance. The ritual takes place in the basement of Marcus's apartment building, in a small storage room that provides the necessary privacy and darkness. The urban setting adds elements not present in suburban versions: distant sounds of traffic and sirens, the awareness of concrete and steel surrounding them, the knowledge that they are creating a pocket of mystery within a landscape often seen as harsh and unforgiving. For Marcus, the experience becomes an experiment in allowing himself to be vulnerable in the presence of others, without losing respect or inviting exploitation. He discovers that there are contexts where showing uncertainty is not only acceptable, but necessary for full participation in meaningful shared experiences. The other children respond to Marcus's participation with appreciation rather than judgment, recognizing the courage it takes for someone with his protective instincts to engage in an activity that requires openness and trust. The ritual creates temporary suspension of the usual social rules, allowing for forms of interaction that might otherwise be impossible. Marcus does not abandon his protective strategies after this single experience, but he gains awareness that they are choices rather than necessities, tools that can be employed selectively rather than constant requirements for survival. This awareness creates space for relationships and experiences that would otherwise remain inaccessible. The mirror shows you Elena, age 14, in rural Montana in 2001. Elena lives on a ranch far from urban centers, her social world consisting primarily of family members and a small number of neighbors scattered across vast distances. She attends a tiny school where everyone has known everyone else since kindergarten, where new experiences and outside perspectives are rare and precious. The Bloody Mary legend reaches Elena through the internet, one of the first cultural phenomena she encounters that connects her to peers from completely different environments and circumstances. The ritual becomes a bridge between her isolated rural existence and a broader community of young people sharing similar experiences across geographical boundaries. Elena adapts the ritual to her unique circumstances, performing it in the ranch house's old bathroom, with its antique mirror environment. The knowledge that children in cities and suburbs are performing similar rituals creates a sense of participation in a global community of young people, exploring similar questions and experiences. The legend helps Eleanor recognize that her geographical isolation does not mean cultural isolation, that she shares fundamental experiences and needs with peers she will never meet, but who face similar developmental challenges and opportunities. This recognition becomes particularly important as Eleanor approaches decisions about her future, whether to remain in the rural community that has shaped her or to venture into urban environments for education and career opportunities. The legend's global reach provides evidence that she can maintain connection to essential human experiences regardless of geographical location. The mirror shifts to show you David, age 10, in London in 2008. David is the child of recent immigrants, caught between the cultural expectations of his family's traditional heritage and the social pressures of assimilation into contemporary British society. He struggles to navigate these competing demands while forming his own sense of identity and belonging. The Bloody Mary legend enters David's world through school friendships with children from various cultural backgrounds. The ritual becomes a kind of cultural common ground, where differences in heritage and tradition become less important than shared curiosity about mystery and supernatural possibilities. David's participation in the legend creates tension within his family, where some relatives view supernatural-themed activities with suspicion or disapproval, but it also provides opportunities for intergenerational dialogue as older family members share their own cultural traditions involving mirrors, spirits, and ritual practices. These conversations reveal unexpected connections between the contemporary legend and ancient practices from David's ancestral culture. His grandmother tells stories of mirror divination and spirit communication that share structural similarities with the Bloody Mary ritual, despite emerging from completely different cultural contexts. This discovery helps David understand that his participation in the legend does not represent abandonment of his heritage, but rather connection to universal human experiences that transcend particular cultural boundaries. The ritual becomes a bridge rather than a barrier between different aspects of his identity. For David's family, his involvement with the legend creates opportunities to discuss how cultural preservation and cultural adaptation can coexist, how tradition appears. She often feels excluded from spontaneous activities that others take for granted. The Bloody Mary ritual initially seems like another experience that will not be accessible to her, given its traditional performance in small, often cramped bathroom spaces that might not accommodate her mobility aids. But her friend group proves creative and adaptable, finding ways to modify the ritual's logistics while preserving its essential character. They move the ceremony to a larger room with a full-length mirror, ensuring that Rebecca can participate fully and comfortably. The adaptation requires group problem-solving and collaborative decision-making that actually enhances the ritual's community-building effects. For Rebecca, the experience becomes an affirmation that meaningful social activities can be made accessible through creative thinking and genuine commitment to inclusion. Her friends demonstrate through their actions that her participation is valued enough to justify whatever modifications might be necessary. The ritual also provides Rebecca with an opportunity to display forms of courage that do not depend on physical abilities. Her willingness to engage with mystery and uncertainty proves just as meaningful as any other participants, and her thoughtful approach to the experience adds dimensions that might otherwise be overlooked. Rebecca's participation influences how her friend group approaches other activities, creating precedents for inclusive thinking and collaborative problem-solving that extend far beyond this single experience. The legend becomes a catalyst for developing more thoughtful and creative approaches to friendship and community building. The mirror shifts to show you Ahmed, age 11, in Cairo, Egypt in 2018. Ahmed lives in a culture where traditional Islamic beliefs shape daily life and social interactions, creating questions about how contemporary folklore practices fit within established religious frameworks. The Bloody Mary legend reaches Ahmed through international media and cross-cultural friendships formed through online gaming and social platforms. His initial interest in the ritual conflicts with family teachings about supernatural practices and appropriate forms of spiritual engagement. Ahmed's exploration of the legend leads to conversations with family members, teachers, and religious authorities about the relationship between cultural practices and religious beliefs, between curiosity about mystery and commitment to established spiritual frameworks. These discussions reveal complex perspectives within his community about how to engage with global cultural phenomena while maintaining connection to traditional values and practices. Some authority figures view the legend as harmless cultural exchange, while others that will serve him throughout life. He learns to evaluate cultural practices according to multiple criteria, considering their social functions, psychological effects, and spiritual implications. His family's approach to this challenge models how traditional communities can engage thoughtfully with contemporary global culture without abandoning core values or losing cultural identity. The discussions create space for intergenerational dialogue and mutual learning. The mirror shows you Maria, age 15, in Mexico City in 2020, During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, Maria's normal social activities have been disrupted by public health restrictions, leaving her feeling isolated from friends and uncertain about how to maintain important relationships under dramatically changed circumstances. The Bloody Mary legend adapts to pandemic conditions through video calling technology, with groups of friends attempting to perform synchronized rituals from their separate homes. The technical challenges of coordination add new layers of complexity to the traditional experience, while preserving its essential social functions. Maria discovers that the legend's emphasis on shared courage and mutual support becomes even more meaningful under conditions of genuine uncertainty and risk. The ritual provides structure for maintaining connection with friends during a period when normal social activities are impossible or unsafe. The pandemic version of the legend creates new forms of documentation, as participants record their experiences and share them through social media platforms. This documentation reveals how the ritual adapts to unprecedented circumstances while maintaining its core appeal and function. For Maria, the pandemic experience of the legend becomes part of a broader education about resilience, adaptation, and the importance of maintaining social connections during times of crisis. The ritual provides evidence that human creativity can find ways to preserve essential experiences, even under dramatically constrained circumstances. The legend's survival and adaptation during the pandemic demonstrate its fundamental resilience and importance for young people's social and emotional development. The basic human needs it addresses prove strong enough to motivate creative solutions to logistical challenges. The mirror begins to show you how these individual stories connect to broader patterns of meaning and significance. Each person's encounter with the legend reflects universal themes, while expressing unique personal circumstances and cultural contexts. The stories reveal how the legend serves different functions for different individuals at different times, helping shy children find courage, providing common ground for diverse groups, creating bridges between traditional and contemporary cultures, offering framework long-term effects of these individual encounters, ways that single experiences with the legend continue to influence people's lives years or decades after their initial participation. The ritual provides reference points that people return to when facing other challenges, frameworks for understanding courage, friendship, and community that persist throughout their development. Sarah, now an adult, draws on her sleepover experience when training new employees, creating environments where vulnerability is safe and courage is recognized. Marcus uses lessons from the basement ritual when building relationships in contexts where trust is difficult to establish. Elena applies insights from her rural experience when navigating cultural differences in urban professional settings. These long-term effects suggest that the legend's influence extends far beyond childhood entertainment or cultural preservation. The ritual provides practical education about human psychology, social dynamics, and personal development that proves relevant throughout people's lives. The mirror shows you how these individual stories contribute to the legend's larger ecosystem, ways that personal experiences feed back into the cultural transmission process. Each participant's unique encounter adds to the collective knowledge about how the ritual can be adapted, what functions it can serve, what benefits it can provide. Parents who remember positive childhood experiences with the legend are more likely to support their own children's participation. Educators who understand its developmental benefits incorporate elements into their teaching. Therapists who recognize its healing potential adapt its structure for clinical applications. This creates a self-reinforcing cycle where positive experiences with the legend generate support for its continuation and evolution. The cultural preservation happens not through institutional mandate or commercial promotion, but through voluntary participation of individuals who recognize its value in their own lives. The mirror begins to show you communities where the legend has become formally recognized as valuable cultural heritage. Museums that include exhibits about folklore traditions and their role in contemporary life. Schools that teach legend analysis as part of cultural literacy curricula. Therapy centers that offer programs based on traditional ritual structures. But you notice that the most successful formal recognition maintains respect for the legend's essentially informal character. Programs that try to control or standardize the legend often lose what makes it compelling. The most effective approaches support conditions that allow organic transmission and evolution rather than impose official endorsement or commercial marketing. The mirror shows you how this principle applies to various contemporary challenges facing traditional cultural practices. Globalization that threatens local variations with homogenization. Commercialization that reduces meaningful traditions to entertainment products. Institutionalization that transforms living practices into museum artifacts. The Bloody Mary legend's survival strategies provide models for other forms of cultural preservation. Its flexibility allows adaptation to new circumstances. Its accessibility prevents elite capture. Its social functions create motivation for voluntary transmission. Its mystery maintains appeal across different generations and contexts. These survival strategies suggest approaches that other traditional practices might adopt when facing similar challenges. The legend's example demonstrates that cultural preservation and cultural innovation can be complementary rather than competing processes. The mirror begins to show you artistic communities, where the legend serves as inspiration for creative work that explores its deeper themes and implications. Writers using the basic structure as framework for stories about courage, friendship, and coming of age. Visual artists creating installations that recreate the ritual's atmospheric conditions for gallery audiences. Musicians composing pieces that use repetition and echo effects to evoke the legend's hypnotic qualities. Dancers choreographing performances that embody the ritual's progression from uncertainty through courage to transformation. Theatre groups developing interactive productions that allow audience participation in modified versions of the experience. These artistic adaptations serve important functions in the legend's overall cultural ecology. They help preserve and transmit the story to broader audiences. They explore meanings and implications that might not be immediately apparent to casual participants. They demonstrate the legend's relevance to adult concerns and sophisticated artistic expression. But the most successful artistic interpretations maintain connection to the legend's essential qualities of simplicity, accessibility, and participatory engagement. Works that become overly intellectualized or aestheticized often lose touch with what makes the original experience compelling. The legend's power seems to derive from its roots in lived experience rather than abstract artistic concepts. The most effective creative adaptations honor this experiential foundation while exploring its artistic and philosophical implications. The mirror shows you how these artistic explorations influence the legend's ongoing development. Ways that creative interpretations feed back into the folk tradition and inspire new variations. Children who encounter art between professional artistic practice and grassroots cultural creation. The legend serves as a bridge between these different cultural domains, facilitating exchange and mutual influence that enriches both. The artistic attention also helps validate the legend as serious cultural phenomenon, worthy of sophisticated analysis and creative exploration. This validation can support preservation efforts and educational applications by demonstrating the tradition's complexity and significance. The mirror begins to show you how the legend connects to larger questions about the role of ritual and ceremony in contemporary life. As traditional religious and cultural institutions play smaller roles in many people's lives, informal rituals like the Bloody Mary summoning may serve some of the same psychological and social functions that formal ceremonies once provided. The legend offers opportunities for marking transitions, creating community bonds, exploring questions about reality and meaning, and connecting with mystery in ways that feel authentic and personally relevant. It provides what anthropologists call liminal experiences, moments when normal rules are suspended and transformation becomes possible. These liminal qualities help explain why the legend often occurs during transitional periods in young people's lives. The ritual provides structure for navigating changes in social relationships, personal identity, and understanding of the world. You watch as the mirror shows you how the legend's liminal character connects to other contemporary cultural phenomena. Music festivals that create temporary communities, gaming experiences that allow experimentation with identity, social media platforms that facilitate new forms of connection and self-expression. All of these activities share certain characteristics with the Bloody Mary legend. They create spaces where normal rules are temporarily suspended, where participants can explore different aspects of themselves, where community forms around shared engagement with mystery or challenge. The legend's persistence and evolution suggest that humans have fundamental needs for these kinds of experiences that transcend particular cultural forms or historical periods. The specific activities may change, but the underlying psychological and social functions remain constant. The mirror shows you research on ritual and ceremony in human development. Studies that suggest regular participation in meaningful rituals contributes to psychological well-being, social cohesion, and cultural continuity. The Bloody Mary legend provides one example of how communities create and maintain ritual experiences that serve these functions. The research reveals that effective meaning and value. The legend incorporates all of these elements while remaining accessible to ordinary people in ordinary circumstances. It does not require special training, expensive materials, or institutional support. Its democratic availability may be one of its greatest strengths in contemporary contexts where traditional ritual structures are less accessible or relevant. The mirror begins to show you therapeutic applications of ritual and ceremony, ways that mental health professionals have begun to recognize the healing potential of structured, meaningful, communal experiences. The Bloody Mary legend's structure provides insights that inform these therapeutic innovations. Group therapy programs that incorporate ritual elements to help participants mark progress in recovery, build trust with others, and connect with sources of meaning and purpose beyond their individual problems. The legend's emphasis on voluntary courage, mutual support, and shared witness provides a model for therapeutic ritual design. Individual therapy applications that help clients develop relationships with uncertainty, practice making choices despite incomplete information, and discover personal resources for managing fear and anxiety. The legend's structure offers frameworks for this kind of therapeutic exploration. Community healing programs that use ritual approaches to address collective trauma, build social cohesion, and create shared experiences of hope and possibility. The legend's community-building functions provide insights into how informal rituals can support social healing and recovery. These therapeutic applications demonstrate how traditional cultural practices contain practical wisdom about human psychology and social organization that remains relevant to contemporary challenges. The legend represents one example of the informal knowledge that communities have developed through generations of lived experience. The mirror shows you how this recognition influences professional practice across various fields. Social workers incorporating folklore analysis into community development strategies. Educators using traditional ritual structures to create more engaging and meaningful learning experiences. Business leaders drawing on insights about group dynamics and community formation from cultural practices like the legend. This cross-pollination between traditional and professional knowledge creates opportunities for innovation and improvement in formal institutions, while also validating the importance of informal cultural wisdom. The legend thus serves not just as entertainment or cultural preservation, but as a source of practical knowledge about effective approaches to human development. Community building often demonstrate greater resilience, social cohesion, and adaptive capacity than those where traditional practices have been abandoned or suppressed. The Bloody Mary legend's global distribution and local adaptation provide models for how cultural practices can maintain essential functions while adapting to different contexts and circumstances. Development programs that support traditional practices rather than replacing them often achieve better outcomes than those that ignore or undermine existing cultural resources. You watch as the mirror displays examples of communities that have successfully integrated traditional and modern approaches to education, healthcare, and social organization. These communities demonstrate that cultural preservation and social development can be mutually reinforcing rather than competing processes. The legend's example suggests approaches to cultural preservation that focus on supporting the conditions that allow traditional practices to evolve naturally, rather than trying to freeze them in static form. This adaptive preservation proves more effective than museum-style conservation for maintaining living cultural traditions. The mirror shows you how these insights influence policy discussions about cultural diversity, indigenous rights, and community development. Recognition of traditional practices as valuable cultural resources supports arguments for protecting the social conditions that allow them to flourish. Educational policies that include folklore and traditional knowledge as legitimate subjects of study. Community development programs that incorporate traditional practices as tools for building social cohesion and cultural identity. Mental health initiatives that draw on traditional healing practices as sources of therapeutic insight and technique. The legend's documentation and analysis provide evidence for the practical value of traditional cultural knowledge and its relevance to contemporary social challenges. This evidence supports policy approaches that treat cultural diversity as a resource rather than an obstacle to development. The mirror begins to show you how the legend's future development might be influenced by emerging social and technological trends, climate change that forces communities to adapt traditional practices to new environmental conditions, artificial intelligence that creates new possibilities for documenting and analyzing cultural variations, global communication networks that facilitate real-time sharing of innovations and adaptations, virtual reality technology that allows immersive participation in traditional practices across geographical boundaries, biotechnology that provides new insights into the psychological and physiological effects of ritual participation. These emerging trends create both opportunities and challenges for the legend's continued evolution that have traditionally supported its transmission. The legend's survival will likely depend on its continued ability to serve essential human needs while adapting to changing circumstances. Its historical resilience suggests that it will find ways to incorporate new elements while preserving its core functions and appeal. You watch as the mirror shows you communities working to ensure that emerging technologies and social changes support rather than undermine traditional cultural practices. Digital preservation projects that document variations before they are lost. Educational programs that teach young people to value and maintain cultural traditions. Research initiatives that provide evidence for the benefits of traditional practices. These efforts suggest growing recognition that cultural diversity and traditional knowledge represent valuable resources that deserve protection and support. The legend's example demonstrates how informal cultural practices can address important human needs that formal institutions sometimes overlook or underserve. The mirror shows you how this recognition influences emerging professional fields that focus on cultural preservation, community development, and human well-being. Cultural anthropologists who work with communities to document and preserve traditional practices. Community psychologists who study the relationship between cultural practices and mental health. Educational researchers who explore how traditional knowledge can inform contemporary pedagogy. These professional developments create career paths for people who want to work at the intersection of traditional and contemporary knowledge, between academic research and community practice, between cultural preservation and social innovation. The legend's study and application provide training grounds for these emerging professional roles. Students who analyze the legend's structure and functions develop skills that prove relevant to various forms of cultural work and social practice. The mirror begins to show you the legend's role in creating and maintaining networks of people who share interests in folklore, traditional culture, and community development. These networks operate through informal connections, shared interests, and mutual recognition, rather than formal organization. Academic conferences, where researchers present studies of the legend and similar phenomena. Community festivals, where people share traditional practices and stories. Online forums where participants discuss variations and experiences. Professional meetings where practitioners explore applications of traditional knowledge to contemporary challenges. These networks facilitate various forms of cultural work, transmitted through voluntary collaboration rather than institutional mandate. People participate because they recognize the value of traditional practices in their own lives and work, not because they are required or paid to do so. This voluntary quality gives the preservation work authenticity and sustainability that more formal approaches often lack. The legend survives because people want it to survive, not because any authority has determined that it should be preserved. The mirror shows you how these networks connect across different levels of society and different domains of practice. Children sharing the legend at summer camps connect to researchers studying its cultural significance. Parents supporting their children's participation connect to educators developing folklore-based curricula. Therapists using the legend's structure in clinical work connect to community organizers building social cohesion through traditional practices. These connections create a rich ecosystem of mutual support and shared learning that serves the legend's preservation and development. The informal networks prove more flexible and responsive than formal institutions, while also providing stability and continuity across time. As you watch these various streams of activity and connection, you feel the gentle pull of approaching sleep, the natural tiredness that comes with extensive mental travel and deep contemplation. The mirror's surface grows softer and more peaceful, its reflections becoming gentler and more dreamlike. The legend of Bloody Mary settles into your consciousness as a complete understanding now, no longer requiring active analysis, but existing as integrated knowledge that will inform your future thinking and experience. You have followed its journey through time and culture, witnessed its adaptations and applications, understood its connections to fundamental human needs and universal patterns of meaning. The story continues beyond your immediate awareness now, carried forward by the countless individuals and communities who find value in preserving and sharing it. Children yet unborn will discover its power for themselves. Adults will remember its lessons when facing new challenges. Communities will adapt its structure to serve emerging needs and circumstances. You rest now in the knowledge that you have become part of the legend's extended family, connected through understanding and appreciation to all those who have found meaning in this simple but profound tale of courage, friendship, and mystery. The story lives in you now, as it lives in countless others, ready to be shared when the hearts gather in darkness and speak the ancient words that open doors between worlds. Sleep well, night wanderer, in the gentle embrace of stories that never truly end. Legends that live forever in the hearts of those who choose to believe in the power of shared courage to transform ordinary moments into extraordinary memories. Dream of mirrors and friendship, of darkness and discovery, of all the magic that waits for those who are willing to step together into the beautiful unknown.